I am so excited for this very special episode today, where we're coming from the iconic Bridge Street Cafe in Walford to celebrate an incredible 40 years of EastEnders. And an iconic venue for the podcast deserves an iconic guest. And I am so honoured to be joined for today's episode by the show's original matriarch and Queen of the Vic, Anita Dobson.
Oh, thank you. That's a lovely introduction.
Anita joined the show right at the very beginning, and she is the original landlady, Angie Watts. She left the show in 1988 after 271 episodes and an amazing 44 duffs, I think. Anita, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you.
It's a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you. I think we have to kick this off by talking about Angie.
Yes.
The icon that is Angie Watts. How did she come about? Because you created one of the most iconic characters in British television history. Was she based on anyone?
Before I started playing Angie, I'd worked in lots of pubs to make up. When I was at drama school, I'd worked in pubs, so I knew lots of publicans, and I'd done lots of time in restaurants, just jobbing around, So by the time I came to play Angie, I understood the bar work, and a lot of people that owned pubs used to say to me, if they ever met me while I was doing Angie, it's exactly like that in our pub.
So she was based on your life experience?
Yes, to a certain extent. And also a little bit on my mum. There's a lot of my mother there, yeah. That kind of survival instinct and kind of generosity of heart, like welcoming sort of thing, like that was all my mother, yeah.
Do you have a memorable scene that has never left you?
Yes. Very early on, I was doing a scene sitting on the pub stairs, and it was a very emotional scene, just me sitting on my own, bemoaning my lot. And Rowley was sitting next to me like that. He was so good. He just sat there and looked at me lovingly through the whole thing. And I remember halfway through, I started to cry because the scene was quite moving. And it went very quiet on the floor, and the dog just sort of came closer and sort of laid his head very gently to one side. And when we'd finished, I remember I looked around and I thought, I think I've cracked it. Because suddenly she had heart.
Yeah. That's really important, isn't it? And you want the character to have heart. You want people to be able to relate to that character. I think that is something that soap does really well. And I think that's why it's quite successful. Do you think?
I think every character you play, be it a murderer, be it somebody who's deeply unlikable, the audience have to warm to them. They have to find some kind of sympathetic element to them or funny element. Some you can just outright hate. But I think for Angie, she had to be that person that you would talk to over a bar and the sort of person that you felt would help you if you were in trouble. Also had a great sense of humour and could handle her drink, really, which she could in copious amounts.
Yes, because soap audiences peaked at an all-time high on Boxing Day in 1986 with 30.1 million viewers watching the famous Christmas episode, Den serving Angie the divorce papers.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that is just incredible. I wasn't born then, but I have watched it many, many, many times, and I still, to this day, get goosebumps.
Aww.
I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah, it was a great scene. That blue eyeliner was quite fabulous as well. Yeah, it was good. And that lovely cardigan that I wore, the blue, turquoise blue with a little bit of glitter, and the hair and everything. It's very iconic, yeah. And I'm very proud of that. I'm proud that it's still up there as one of the most watched scenes from EastEnders. It makes me feel very proud, yeah.
How does it feel to have had such an impact on the world?
Well, wonderful, I suppose, is the only thing I can say. I mean, she was a great character to play. The first time I auditioned, I remember reading it and thinking, wow, this is great. I'd love to do this. And the fact that Julia Smith was so trusting with me once we'd bedded in, when the series opened, she more or less gave me carte blanche. She said, you can now lessen the hair colour if you want. You can wear trousers if you want. She said, I trust you now. She's in your hands. So that was wonderful. So I did my own makeup, my own hair.
Did you?
Yeah. So
wow.
It was a great thing to do because it felt like, she was part of me. Yeah. I loved her.
A real person. Yeah. What was it like to work with Julia and Tony? Julia and Tony are the creators. Mm-hmm. And I always often think about them and think what was it like to have them around and to be able to sort of pick their brains and...
Yeah. Well, Julia was a very strong mama. She looked after her baby, the soap, and she would come on the set, but not that often as you'd think. She would only come down if there was a problem.
Right.
Or if she needed to tell you something, but not that often. But she'd have little chats. She really was. She kept a weather eye on us all. I think really and nothing happened without her her say so.
Right.
And so I trusted her a lot. I think she only ever really came down on the floor. At one point, we were doing the bit where Angie's told. She's going to tell him that she's only got 6 months to live because she's running out of options. And we had a drag queen in the pub that night, and Angie was getting drunk and sort of hanging around, and the drag queen was singing songs. In fact, the drag queen is a really good friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, David Dale. And I remember she popped down and they'd broken for a second to reset something, and she tapped me on the shoulder and I went, what? And she went, I'm going to say 2 words to you and then I'm not going to say anything else. I went, okay, what are they? She went, Judy Garland. And I went, gotcha. I knew exactly what she meant. She was very good like that. She was succinct. She didn't mince words and she didn't waste words. She told you, just give you a little clue and then let you run with it.
And then you got it.
Yeah. And it was her really who cast me because, as you probably know, there was somebody else cast to play Angie Watts. So I came in at the 11th hour. Or 11th and a half hour, really.
It was meant to be.
Maybe, yeah. I think some things are, yeah. It feels like it looking back now, that the things that happened, because my agent didn't put me up for it, but they said she looks too young at that point. So I went off and did, I think I did the Rocky Horror Show in Italy, and I did Henry IV Part 2 on tour. And so I just lived, life happened. So by the time they decided they were not using the girl that was already cast, that they were looking for Angie Watts, I did get called in because Julia taught me television technique at drama school, and she must have remembered me and spoke to my agent and said, send her in, just send her in because, we just need to make a pot and just find her. So in I went, and I was wearing a little 40s suit, which I'd bought when we were on tour with the Shakespeare, because... they were cheap. You could get a £6 40 suit and a little coat, and it looked really smart, and didn't cost much. And I also had my hair gelled because I'd been to Italy, and then my friend Gianna said that you have to gel. I said, pardon? She said, you have to gel your hair. So I did. So when I walked in, she went, that's a good look. Oh. So already I felt comfortable. And she said to me when I finally did get cast, she said, we're going to dye your hair darker to make you look older. She said, no trousers ever, heels. She said, and suits. You look good in a suit, she said. And that was all she said. And I went, whisked off, had my hair dyed, went off, got my costumes, came back the next day, went on, rehearsed with Leslie and Letitia, and that was it. We started recording. It was that quick.
And that was your first day?
Yeah. That was my first day. That was my first week, yeah. Wow. I was cast, I think, on the Wednesday, and I was filming by the Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very quick, the turnaround.
Was it scary?
Well, everything that's exciting is scary, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I just felt I knew this woman. I knew her. I had some characters that you get cast for, you have a hook on immediately, and she was one of those, yeah.
You get a feeling where you're so excited to play them, you're ready to go. Was it like that?
Well, it was just that the script was full of good stuff. The writers were second to none. In those early days, they wrote wonderful stuff, and it was the same writers every week. So eventually they started to write for us, for Leslie and I. So it was great stuff that they were coming up with. So it was just a joy to play. It was a gift. It really was a gift. Yeah. I feel very lucky, that happened. It changed my life.
Did you and Leslie click straight away? Because I mean, you created the most iconic couple in the show's history, you and Leslie. And I think sometimes it takes time for people to click with a partner. You know, you might look well together in the audition room and it might match, but you don't necessarily bounce off each other. But watching you two together, you get the impression that was natural.
Well, he used to say, your mouth shuts, mine opens. My mouth shuts, yours opens. We just knew each other inside. But we did click immediately. I went in for the first day's morning's rehearsal on the Friday, and with just Leslie and Tish. And we did the first scene, and it went quiet, and he just got up and he went, yes, brilliant. And I thought, yeah, he's right, it just clicks. And then there's a little tap on my shoulder, and Tisha went, Mum, do you want a cup of tea?
Oh,
and I thought, I'm here.
Lovely Tish. I love Tish.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
She's amazing, isn't she? You could never have her on here. You'd be bleeping left, right and centre. But she's an icon in herself. Yeah. She has no idea. Did you realise at the time how big this show was going to be? Did you have any idea?
Not really at the very beginning, because I was just very grateful to have a job that ran for quite a while. It was like, I think it was 3 months with an option to another 18 months if it worked. So I had a proper job, so from being a jobbing actress, going from one job to the other, suddenly I could relax a little bit, But I didn't think, I just loved the work and that was it. But it wasn't until we went into the canteen to watch the first episode, and I looked over at Leslie and he was standing, with his arms like that, and I could just see his face, and he was sort of thinking, and I looked at him and I went, he's good, isn't it? And that's when we both kind of realised that, yeah, we were onto something.
Wow. And it's been 40 years. Can you believe it's still going 40 years later?
I think it's great that it is going 40 years later. Well done. Congratulations, EastEnders. Yeah.
It is
Happy
amazing.
Anniversary.
Yeah. We're doing a live for the 40th anniversary.
Wow.
I did the 25th and it was really exciting. And I am really excited to be a part of the 40th as well. Do you wish you could have done a live episode?
Scary.
Yeah.
Live television is scary, because we all have the luxury of being able to stop and redo it to make sure it's good. I mean, you can't on stage, obviously, that's the joy of it. But it's different on stage because you get into a role. But it's in a studio, I think live television is very difficult, because you're very, very aware of everything around you and what's happening, what could go wrong and often does go wrong. But yeah, it is exciting.
It is. You get one shot. I was really, really not very well when I did the first one. I completely lost my voice for the 25th.
Oh.
And they sent me off, and, they sent me to have cameras down my throat. And I thought, why are they making such a fuss? And it turned out she was Archie's killer. That's why they were making such a fuss. And they told me at 7:20 and we went live at 7:30. So hopefully they don't do that to me this time.
No.
But there's something really quite amazing in doing this live, because you do only get one shot, and you're so used to, your character inside out, and all the other characters, and it's just a real buzz. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Well, a lot of when Leslie and I were working together, a lot of it was improvised as well. I mean, really? Yeah, a lot of it, things would go wrong, and rather than stop or have to run on and then it piles up, so you've got backlog of stuff you have to reshoot, we would just keep going. Wow. And if something went wrong, he dried, I dried, you never know, because we just kept going. So because we both felt at ease with each other, and also we both knew our characters inside out, so we just lived them, really.
And you could do that, and you just knew each other that well that it would just
We trusted
flow.
each other. That's what it was. We trusted each other, that the other one wouldn't leave you hanging. I mean, lots of stories. I mean, I remember doing a scene where she tells him she's got 6 months to live. And I said to him before we went on the set, how many takes do you think this is going to take then? And he went, 1. And I went, really? He went, 1. We went in, we did the scene, and in the middle of it, when the argument starts going, he picked the table up and threw it against the wall, and it smashed into pieces. Finished the scene, he went, 1 take. We didn't have another table.
And he knew that was going to happen. EastEnders has 4 of the top 10 highest TV ratings of all time, 3 of them focused on your character. One of Angie's major storylines was her alcoholism. How was that to play? Was, because we've touched on it many times throughout the years with Linda Carter going through it now. But back then, I feel like topics weren't spoken about as much as they are now. So how was that to sort of play that out on national television in front of all those millions of people?
I never thought about it. I've been in pubs, seen many people drunk, been drunk myself. I just played the character. I never worried about, at that point, it never struck me that there was any stigma to being an alcoholic or a functioning alcoholic even. So no, I just played the character for what she was worth. And I'd seen enough of life at that point. And I wasn't a young girl when I started. I was in my 30s. And so, yeah, I just played the script, the story. That was what got me through. And the fact that she was a drinker, I thought gave her lots of other colours to play. Because you can play, I think I must have played every kind of drunk, happy drunk, sad drunk, argumentative drunk, you name it, I played it. So it gave another sort of layer to play, not just a mum, a publican, a wife, but somebody who had issues but had not a clue that they were issues. And in a funny kind of way, I think it made her more lovable because she was weak. There was a weakness to her. And she was like those toys, you knock them and they wobble, but they always come back up. She'd be back there the next day. Like the night before, she'd have makeup all over her, hair all over the place, lacquer stuck to her hair. The next morning, she'd be there, beautiful, manicured, immaculate, looking smart, there to greet you with a big smile on her face. And I loved that. I loved that kind of, that nobody saw much, just little bits of the character behind the scenes. That was very good to play.
They were sort of what made her a matriarch, made her the strong landlady that she was, is that she always picked herself up. She was always there, showed up the next day immaculate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And people respect people like that. Also, she could laugh at herself. And I remember once we were somewhere doing a PA together, Leslie and I, and a little boy came up to me and he said, "I like you." I said, "Do you? That's nice then, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah, I like you as Angie." So I said, "What do you like about it?" He said, "You're funny." And I thought that was her saving grace.
Yeah.
That was because she didn't take herself too seriously. She knew she was a mess and she knew when she looked great. And that was her. What you got was what you saw.
How important was it for you to get that right, for the audience that were watching that had been through that?
I never thought about that.
You just never.
No, I think probably I was very sheltered in my upbringing, really. And so I never really thought about issues, like I do now. And I think I just loved the character so much. And I loved all her foibles, all her little weaknesses and her strengths. And I just relished playing them. So, but I didn't think, now talking to you, I can see what it must have meant for some people that were in that kind of position.
Probably saved many people.
Maybe, I don't know. But it never crossed my mind. I think I wasn't young in years, but I was very young in my emotional growth, I think, at that point. So I didn't really question it or think of the impact it might have made on people that were watching. But you're quite right, it probably did. But I think the fact that, like with her taking all the pills, the fact that she fought hard to keep what she had, but also the fact that she would destroy herself because she was so unhappy, I think that ricocheted with a lot of people. That desire to take her own life because she was at the end of her rope and probably couldn't face life without him. Because he hate him as she did, she loved him, and he her. That's why when they separated them and they gave them separate pubs, I remember thinking, oh no, it's not going to be quite the same. Because everybody I met who was a publican said, the thing is, you stick together.
Yeah.
Marriages would stick together, and people that worked in pubs, it was hard, it's tough, you argue all the time, but they stuck together. So when you separated them, they were the fact that they were under the same roof, fighting like cat and dog, yet couldn't live apart.
No,
that was to me that was the joy and the strength of the characters. And I think when they separated them, don't get me wrong, when I was in the Dagmar, I had some good scenes. But I did miss being actually in the Vic with Leslie there, with the family together. That was, I think, what had the strongest message for me, that, you fight to stay together. Yeah. And if you can't, which they didn't, they had to split up, then, devastation is the next step, isn't it? And you have to fight to not be depressed and to stay alive and get through it, to get through trauma. So that's what happened. I mean, apparently she died of alcohol poisoning in America. What a way to go. But, I think she probably drank herself to death, yeah. And probably had days when she was incredibly happy, singing and dancing, standing on the bar, whatever, and days where she couldn't get out of bed and probably took pills and whatever because she was so depressed. I don't know, because I wasn't her in those days, but I can imagine what her life might have been like. You don't know. I hope she found a safe place and good people around her. I hope so. Yeah.
I hope so too. Now, you used to do two episodes a week and rehearse.
Yeah, and and the omnibus went out on the Sunday.
On the Sunday. Yeah. What was it like to be able to have rehearsals?
I've
never had that luxury.
Really?
No. I mean, we come on and it's, half an hour and then we're turning.
Wow.
Was it lovely to have that?
I love rehearsals. I remember I worked years ago. My first job was at the Glasgow Citizens Theatre, and a fabulous actor called Mike Gwilym was the leading light, if you like, there. And he said to me, that was my first job. I was very young, very green. And he said, what do you like best, Anita? The performance or the rehearsals? And I went, the performance, of course, the performance, And he went, that will change. And I remember thinking, why will that change? And years later, I now know what he meant. Creating it is the joy. Once you've made it, you give the gift to the people and you pass it on to them. But you having that time to create it and mould it and change it, make mistakes, do it again, try it a different way. Something happens, you think, yes, I can use that. That is the great joy of acting. And so I know exactly what he meant. And the rehearsals were great.
How did you get into acting? Did you always want to be an actress? Did you watch someone on television and think, I want to be like them? Or
apparently, when I was 4 years old, I was taken to the pantomime at Hackney Empire. And my mother says that I got up and did all of the pantomime with them on stage, which they must have really loved. Can you imagine? And then when I got home, I did the whole pantomime again for my mum and my granddad and family. And my grandfather said, you want to watch her, she's got the sawdust in her blood. Yeah. So from an early age, everybody thought she'll go on the stage, that's what she'll do. But I thought, I don't want to be told what I'm going to do. So I left school at 16 and did 4 years of doing all sorts of different jobs, which was fabulous because you're seeing life, which you need if you're going to be an actor. And tried everything, and I sort of got to the point where I was doing temporary typing, paying my mum some money, and then the rest of the week was mine. So I joined an Amdram company in the evenings, and a teacher there said to me, you didn't go to university, did you, Anita? And I went, no, I didn't. I left school at 16, couldn't wait to get out. And she said, well, if you haven't been to university, you can get a grant to go to drama school. You should look into it. So I did. I auditioned for drama school, and then I had to audition for the grant, which I got. But luckily I got what they called a home grant, which meant that you could stay at home and you travelled in to work, to college every day. So I went to drama school in South Kensington to Webber Douglas, which actually Leslie went to as well, not at the same time.
Oh, really?
And went home every night to mum.
Oh.
And got fed. So
wow.
I never lost any weight. But it was good. It was fascinating. And that dichotomy of being still having a really bad Cockney accent. I mean, you could cut cheese with it. And going to a drama school where everybody spoke terribly nicely and would talk to you like that. Anita said, where does your mummy do? Does she work or not? And I go, well, and I try and do what they did, but I just couldn't. But I had a wonderful voice teacher, and she said, you can't talk like that, darling. She said, you can't. That accent is awful. She said, you've got to lower your voice so that you you have the possibility to do Shakespeare, Chekhov, Ibsen if you want to, but you can still be yourself. So I walked around for the best part of a year talking like that with a very low voice. What do you want for tea, darling? I'd like eggs, Mum, please. And then after that I found this lower register, she said to me, but one thing, Anita, never lose your accent. It's what will make you or break you. And boy, was she right. Because the next thing that happened was EastEnders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can talk nicely if I want to, or I can just be, me and muck about.
Oh, my goodness. So was that your first job coming out of drama school?
No, it wasn't. I went I did a very strange Christmas show called The Saga of Sir Sing-a-Lot, which he did badly. And that got me my equity card. Because in those days you had to have a union card to work.
Yeah.
And from there I went to the Glasgow Sits, where I met Mike Gwynham and lots of other lovely people. And then I worked for a long time before Angie came along. I mean, what was I? When I went to the Citizens Theatre, I must have been 23, and I didn't get Angie till I was about 34. So I was banging around for a long time.
You was a jobbing actress for a long time.
Yeah, a long time, And I remember I got to a point where my mother said to me, look, she said, Dad and I have been talking, and you don't look like you're going to get married anytime soon. So we're going to give you some money, which we'd saved up, and we'd like you to go and get yourself some clothes, darling, so that you look a bit, a bit smarter. So off I went, and I went to Italy, discovered hair gel, and yes. I went on tour
with Gianna.
with Gianna, and went around all these thrift shops where I got my little suits and my coats. So when I came back, before I auditioned, I was already kind of, I had a look, if you like, and so I kind of feel that kind of set me up on the path to finding myself in a way, and then they said they're looking. That's right. Somebody said to me, there's a drama series, it was called then. They didn't call it a soap. It was a drama series. There's a drama series called The EastEnders. Have you been up for it? Because it's perfect for you. So I said, well, I did ask my agent, but he said they didn't really want to see me. So when I got back from this little tour around, my agent rang up and he said, well, they do want to see you now, and they want to see you, I think it was the next day, So from then, it just ricocheted into action. It all suddenly went very quickly. It was like I'd sort of got the look, I got the scripts, I got the yes, and that was it. We were off.
Oh, go.
Yeah. When I left Julia's office after I'd auditioned, she said, take the scripts with you. And I thought, does that mean I've got the job? Anyway, whatever, I'll take them. So I took the scripts, got in the car, drove off. The car broke down. I only had a beaten up old Vauxhall Cavalier in those days. So the car broke down. I got out. The heavens opened, so I got completely drenched with. So I got a cab eventually, got home, dumped the scripts in like that. The phone rang, and my agent said, "You've just been offered Angie Watts in EastEnders. What do you want to do?" I said,
"That gave me goosebumps."
I said, "I'll call you back." And I rang my dad, and he said, "Hello, darling, what's the matter?" I said, "Well, I've just been offered this part," and I rattled it off. He went, "Stop, stop, 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 stop. Get off the phone and ring your agent and say yes." So that's kind of how it happened, and that was it. We were off.
So had they not given you that money, you wouldn't have gone to Italy, you wouldn't have found the hair gel and the suit, and you may not have got Angie.
I'd like to think that I would still have got Angie, because I think I had a bit of a sympathy with her, and so hopefully I would have got it anyway, but it certainly helped. Yes, it did help, because also for Julia it gave her an idea, because she had, I think the reason the other girl didn't work was because she didn't look right. She looked a bit more, I think, hippie, I don't know, I'm guessing, and she wanted someone that was a bit more, like looked a bit smarter, like presented herself like a businesswoman that happened to run a pub. And so, yes, you're right, the suit, of course, did work. And the fact that the hair was like neat and tidy and lots of jewellery, it was a look of somebody who's in control. Because she looked all-powerful, didn't she, Angie? She looked like she could handle anything.
Yes.
But actually, what she couldn't handle was her marriage. Couldn't handle her love life. And that's what was ripping her apart. I mean, they were destined to be together, but he was a naughty boy. And she loved him, didn't want to leave him, but hated him for what he was doing to her. It's a classic love story. Wonderful. Oh, I got a bit emotional there.
It is emotional, because it's part of so many people's lives. Yeah. Like, most of the nation grew up watching that. So, we know Den and Angie.
Yeah.
Well, we feel like we know them anyway.
And I think probably that's why they became a successful couple.
Yeah.
Because people understood that. They understood that marriage, life, it isn't easy. It can look from the outside like you've got it all together, but inside you could be falling apart. And so people connected to that.
Yes.
And the fact that they stayed together, tried to bring their daughter up and tried to make this marriage work, people connect. That's what they loved, I think. Yeah.
Well, that is what soap does, isn't it? It has that connection between real people. You feel like you know that character. And everybody at some point in their life has probably met an Angie or a Den or a Sharon.
Yeah, you love them. I mean, I fell in love with Tish the minute I saw her. And we had lots of nights out together. I mean, she used to stay at my flat, and with the girls, Gilly and me and Tish. And do you remember Sandy Ratcliffe? If you like the Musketeers, the 4 Musketeers, she was the fourth one.
She was the fourth one.
And so we used to go out a lot together. And the fact that I loved her and we got on so great, I think that also shows on television, doesn't it?
It does. The relationships you have in real life, they merge into your characters a little bit. They bleed into your character. There's a little bit of you in your character, I always feel.
Yeah, there'll always be a bit of Angie, a lot of Angie in me. I mean, I'm very, very proud of it.
I hear from many of my fellow colleagues that you're really old school. You knew everybody's name. Backstage, you knew the sound guy and the vision mixer and the makeup girls, the costume girls. It takes the whole army to get this thing off the ground, this big machine that is EastEnders, and each and every department is just as important as the other. How important was it for you to know everyone's name and to be part of the team?
Yeah, well, 2 things. One, I wouldn't know everybody's name now because my memory is not as good. But I just like to be... I think when you're working, I like being a team player. I like having my moment in the sun. I won't deny that. But I do like being a team player. And I like to feel that the rapport that you have is not just with your fellow cast members, but it's with the cameramen, the people around you. They're all part of it. You can't do it on your own. So all the cameramen, all the lighting people, everybody, the runners, the girls that do your makeup and your hair, everybody is a necessary part of that. And so I like everyone to be happy, and because I want to be happy and enjoy my job. So I do make a point of actually, going and saying hello and chat to everybody. Everybody's, if anybody's in trouble, what's going on. Yeah, I think it's good. I think if you've got a good, happy ship, then you'll sail for a long time.
Yeah. That's lovely. Let's talk a little bit about your life since EastEnders, because you left there in 1988 and you have gone on to do many things. I have a very long list here, but some of which are Casualty, Holby City, Silver Street, Sunburn, Hotel Babylon, most recently Doctor Who. How was that? How was Doctor Who?
Doctor Who was amazing. I loved it. Russell T Davies, the writer, the head man, said to me in a little note, he said, "Come and have fun." And that's exactly what I did. I just had fun. I loved playing the characters. And it was a blast, really was.
Has that been your favourite job since?
Oh, I've had lots of favourites. I'm not very good at having a favourite, like what's your favourite drink or what's your favourite movie. I'm not very good at having a favourite. I just love everything. But it's certainly way up there, right at the top with all of the big ones. Yeah, they're a very happy ship. The whole company at Doctor Who, they're a very happy team. People go back for years because they're like here, because they like it and because they're happy and they love the characters. And also, what's great about Doctor Who is there's lots of curveballs, so you think you know what's happening, and then it goes yow, and it goes off at a tangent, and that's exciting.
Yeah, when you read the script, I bet it's lovely because you think you know where it's going, and it doesn't go that way at all.
That's right. Well, for the second series is about to come out, which I'm in, and the last series that I did, which was the first one I did, didn't have a clue what I was doing, who this character Mrs. Flood was, and people would say to me, if you go and do those Comic-Cons, they'd say, "So who's Mrs. Flood?" I don't know. I haven't got a clue, because he was kind of writing as he went, and she just evolved.
Amazing.
Which was wonderful, yeah. And I loved her in not the same way as I loved Angie. Angie was a very deep, serious, emotional love. But I loved her because she was this funny, odd little character that seemed to turn up all over the place, but you didn't quite know who she was or what she was, what she was doing in life, And then just when you thought you knew, then she'd turn up somewhere else. So I loved that.
That was the beauty of her, that you never knew.
Yeah, and she was she could be nice, and sometimes she'd be a bit weird, and that's great. I mean, that's what excites me about acting. It's just all the different characters you play and all the different nuances of the characters. It gets me really excited, as you can see.
You've done lots of theatre, Chicago, Hamlet, Wicked, which obviously loads of people will be familiar with now since the film's release. What was that like? Do you love theatre?
I was passionate. I have been passionate about theatre most of my career, and I did it non-stop, really. I didn't really get my break until Play Away. I did a kids series called Play Away, and that was my first television. But up to that, I'd done everything. I mean, I feel like I've done theatre really well as I could, But it took a long time to get into television, and then once I did, I fell in love with that. So now I love doing television. And as I get older, I think you do get a little bit more nervous. There's that kind of expectation, isn't there? Okay, so you're Anita Dobson. What you got to show for it then? And there's that thing that you're going to let people down. I find that a very heavy yoke, that you think, I don't want them to mar any ideas of me being okay at what I do. I don't want to let anybody down, least of all myself. So I get more fearful. I think you get more nervous as you get older, because you just think, as the career goes along and it gets bigger and bigger, you think, I mustn't let this side down. I've got to keep going, keep topping the last thing, So that's quite scary. But then now at this point, talking to you, which is delightful, I sort of got to the point where I think, do you know what? It's not rocket science. Nobody's going to die. Do your best. That's all you can do. Do your best and hope for the best. And just be grateful and thankful that you are still working.
Isn't it funny? I think you feel like that, but anybody who you're working with or working for probably is sitting there going, oh my God, it's Anita Dobson. And yet you're sitting there fearful that you're going to let them down.
I'm going to let them down.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like that. I mean, I worked with some quite fabulous, famous people, and they all say the same, that you never feel it's easy. It isn't. If it was easy, we'd have done it and moved on to something else.
Yeah.
The fact that we keep coming back is because we want that testing. We want that thrill, that scary bit. We want that. Yeah, we've got addicted to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny, I've been here 20 years and still when they say turning over, I get butterflies.
Me too.
Why? But I like it. I like that feeling. If I don't have that feeling, I think I'd feel a bit too comfortable.
Yes.
And then I wouldn't be, I wouldn't feel so passionate about what I do, maybe. I always wonder, because I think after 20 years, surely you should just get used to it by now. But you don't, do you?
No. Also, if you don't get nervous, then you shouldn't be doing it.
No, this is true.
Because the nerves are because you want to do it well so badly that you're there a nervous wreck. Years ago when I was at drama school, you do little plays in front of the teachers. There's no audience out there. You just do it to get used to being on stage, and they tell you how bad or how possibly good you were. And I remember I was standing off stage, the tiny little theatre there, and I was standing here, and the door to the outside world was sort of over there. And I was standing there, and I was a bag of nerves, Italian straw hat, that was what we were doing. And I was standing there sort of, oh my God, like that. And the director came down the stairs and he went, Anita, are you all right? What's the matter? I said, just nerves. He said, we'll go home. I said, sorry? He went, darling, go home. He said, the door's right there. Off you can go home. You don't have to do this. You can go home if you want to. We won't think badly of you. And he just looked at me and I went, no, I said, I've rehearsed for this. We've been rehearsing for weeks. I can't go home. He went, there's your answer. Off you go, babes. And that was it. Wow. And I often think of that. I think you could just walk out and go home. You could do that.
It's very true.
But you want to be here because this is what you've chosen to do. And we love it, don't we, when people think we've done well and you hear that applause. I mean, there's nothing like it in the world. Nothing.
No.
But you have to pay the price, and the price is that you are going to be a bag of nerves, going over and over your first line. And then you think, I've forgotten my first line.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot my first line. What will I do? And then you go, and suddenly words come out. If we're lucky, yes, the words come out. It is terrifying. Yeah.
Quite often, I think I don't know what this scene is. I say just turn over and it'll probably come out, and 9 times out of 10 it does.
Whoa!
Because you have to trust your brain. I mean, your brain, that muscle, you use that so much when you do what we do. You have to trust it. You have to there's a lot of trust in yourself, isn't there? Yeah. As well as the people you're working with, because if it doesn't come out, you want them to pick you up.
Yeah. And also,
you count on them.
I don't want to worry you, but as you get older, that fear gets huger because your brain is not working as fast as it used to. So you may get out there and go,
oh,
nothing comes out at all.
And there's a beautiful silence.
Yeah. So then you talk about something else for a while until suddenly it comes back. Funny.
Talking about music and musicals, you stormed the charts in 1986 with Anyone Can Fall in Love, which, for those of you who don't know, is a song based on the EastEnders theme. How did that come about?
Julia Smith. She taught me at drama school, as I said, television technique, and we did have singing lessons at drama school. Not really it wasn't a musical drama school, it was a drama school. It was like you there to do Shakespeare and Ibsen and Chekhov, And but we did have singing lessons, and I was lucky. I did get singing lessons, and I think we'd done a few little bits, in the school, and I think she's very good, Julia. She would always remember, and she just came along and knocked on my dressing room and said, we're going to record the EastEnders theme. I said, oh, that's lovely. She said, lyrics, music, Simon May's going to produce it. I went, oh, yeah, lovely. Want to do it? And I went, me? She went, yeah. We think it would be good if Angie Watts sang the EastEnders theme.
Wow.
And I went, okay. Thinking, oh, my God. And I think we did it in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
2 weeks. And yet it took 3 months to do one track with my husband. That's why Queen are where they are, yeah.
Wow. Is that how you met? Did you meet your husband through that?
We met at, I suppose because I'd been catapulted into suddenly everybody's living room. Yeah. And I went to a preview of Down and Out in Beverly Hills with my then agent, a kind of boyfriend. Not sure if we were on or off at the time, but anyway, he came with me, and somebody else, I can't remember who the fourth person was, and Brian turned up at that preview, and that was the first time we met. Yeah, he said, he was married at the time. I didn't know that, but he was married, and he was with his wife. And as they came along, his wife said, "I think you're marvellous in EastEnders." And I said, "Oh, thank you ever so much." And then he went, "I think you're marvellous too, and you should come and see us play at Wembley." And that was it. And then I looked, and he went and sat down, and I turned around to my agent. I went, "Who was that?" Musically, I didn't have a clue. And a little person behind went hard on the shoulder and said, "Don't you know who that is? That's only the lead guitarist with Queen." I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I didn't know that." Looked down there and went, trying to make it better. Not that he'd heard. And then when I got downstairs, he was waiting there, and he said, I was serious. He said, "You should come and see us play at Wembley."
Oh.
So that was it, really. But really, as a result of that meeting, it was Fred I became friends with. I became friends with Freddie Mercury, and I didn't really get it together with Brian till much later, until all the stuff of life had happened, with his marriage and whatever. So it was Fred that I used to hang out with a lot. So he kind of introduced me to Fred, and then Fred kind of gave me back to him, if you like.
Wow. Yeah. What was it like being shoved in the public eye?
Insane.
Then?
I mean, I was still living in a little council flat in the East End, and then I'd go out of the house and go to something like Queen playing at Wembley, and it was like I was like a rabbit in headlights. It was like, wow. It's just. I remember that there was a VIP section that they'd got us tickets in, and first of all, he actually sent a message through my agent, said, "How many tickets does she want?" I said, "Tell him 26. And he went, "What?" I said, "Say 26. And he went, "Okay." So there was a big gang of us went. So they put us all into the VIP.
He gave you 26?
Apparently something like that, yeah. So they put us in the VIP area. And as I came in, I was sort of like looking around like, wow. And they all started clapping, Angie. And I remember thinking, that's me. And that was a big sort of, the first time it really, I think, hit me powerfully, because it's like, you can imagine an arena's massive, and it was like, wow, they're not cheering Queen at this point, they're cheering Angie Watts.
Wow.
That's me.
Oh my God.
So it was extraordinary. And then I went home to my little flat in Stepney and thought.
Like nothing had happened.
Like nothing had happened. Yeah, like that was sort of a dream. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a big leap. I went from 0 to 100 overnight.
Yeah.
And I remember my mum said to me, she said, all you can do, darling, is hold on to the end of the rocket and wait till it lands. And I said, okay. Yeah.
Wow. Was there a bit of advice that anyone had given you throughout your career that you have never forgotten?
Well, Sian Phillips said to me, I remember I was asking her about her career and, how she managed to have kids, have a marriage, have a massive career, get through a divorce, all the things like that. And she said, darling, you just have to push through. And I thought, yeah, there's no way back, is there? There's no answer. You just get on with it. Flu, viruses, whatever, you won't keep us off that stage. I've seen people come off stage, throw up in a bucket, shake themselves and go back on again. We're troopers. That's what we do. So that was a good piece of advice. Just push through, and never give up. Never give up. If you want something, just don't give up. Because I could have given up easily, ages ago, and said, done now, really. But no. Somebody said to me, never give up. Never give up, because if you give up, then you don't really want it, do you?
Is that what you would that be your piece of advice that you would give someone now?
I do give it to people. Lots of times when I've done, like talks, and I always say to them, they say, what's it like? Did you think you'd never make it? Do you ever get depressed? Yes, of course I do, yeah. And, what would you say to us? And I say, just never give up. If you have something you want, a passion, something that makes you come alive. Like talking to you now, I'm alive, I'm awake, I feel potent, because it's the thing that turns me on. So never give up. Never turn your back on it, because it will then turn its back on you. Wow. You got to love it, through the hard times and the good times. And that's what love is, isn't it? It's like, okay, It's not very good at the moment. It's like nobody cares, nobody's ringing, the phone's dead. But you've got to still hang on. Like you do, with a relationship. If you love that person, okay, rotten stuff happens, but you just have to hang on and wade through it, because you get through to the other. With everything good that happens to you, waiting around the corner, there could be something really rotten that's just got your name on. Bash. Yeah. There's yours, Anita, But also, you're in a terrible hard time. You don't know. The phone could ring. It could be Hollywood. Never give up. Keep positive. Keep pushing forward. Don't stay in the past, because it's dead. You live the moment and hope for the future.
Lovely. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
I've really enjoyed that.
Me too.
That's been lovely. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us all your stories. That really was amazing.
Well,
I feel very lucky to have sat here with you, so thank you.
It gives me the chance to thank Angie as well. She's been good to me. She gave me a lot. So thank you for giving me the time to do that.
Thank you for giving us Angie.
It's a deal.